Hey everyone, this is Mrs. Moriarty, and I'm here to discuss with us topic 8.4, which is all about the human impacts on ecosystems such as wetlands and mangroves. So, starting us off, a little review just back from Unit 1 when we discussed aquatic ecosystems such as wetlands and mangroves. Remember, wetlands are going to be areas that are going to be submerged or saturated in water for at least part of the year. Usually, they're going to have plants that are adapted for that type of environment, so they're going to have emergent plants in that type of ecosystem, but their root system is adapted to be submerged under standing water for long periods of time. Mangrove swamps, right? Very similar type of environment. However, we tend to find mangrove swamps usually in more tropical areas, definitely along the coast. And so, because they're found more along the coast, main difference between wetland mangrove swamp would be that now those waters are going to probably have a higher salinity content. So those trees tend to be very salt tolerant. Hence why the types of trees that we see in a mangrove swamp are mangrove trees. Now, those mangrove trees are really key to those coastline communities because those mangrove trees can help protect those coastlines from things like erosion and storm damage. Now, some of the other ecosystem services wetlands and mangroves can both provide can be habitats for animals and plant foods, right? That's going to provide us, so that would be a provisioning type service. They can also be regulating in that they can help in groundwater recharge in aquifers. They can help absorb any floodwaters, and they help to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. They can portray supporting ecosystem services by water filtration, creating a habitat for pollinators. They help with nutrient cycling like nitrates, carbon, and so on. And cultural services, right? It can provide maybe some ecotourism, people can purchase fishing licenses, camping fees, and so on. So it is crucial that we maintain the stability of our wetland and mangrove ecosystems because they provide a multitude of services to us and other organisms. So what might be some common threats to wetland areas, mangrove areas? Well, one is going to be pollution. What type of pollution may plague wetland ecosystems? That can usually be nutrient pollution, high amounts of nitrates, phosphorus. Can also be sediment, right, due to erosion. If that wetland is near maybe a more urban type area, it is most likely impacted by motor oil, pesticides, and probably even some other chemicals known as endocrine disruptors. And we'll talk a little bit about those a little later on. Wetlands can also be disrupted by simply just urban development, right? We fill in or we drain the water from wetlands in order to build things like homes, parking lots, and stores. We can sometimes divert the water in a wetland or mangrove. We can divert that water upstream for maybe more flood control. We can use it for maybe more agricultural purposes, right, to water our crops. Or we can see use as simply dam construction, right? If there is a dam along maybe one of the rivers or streams that pools into that specific wetland, it's certainly going to interrupt how much water is there, how much sediment may flow, and so on. Lastly, last human impact would probably be overfishing, right? This is going to disrupt whatever food webs are found in wetlands. So a decrease in fish predators usually means an increase in prey. All right, folks, a little practice FRQ for 8.4. So at this point, you want to make sure you've paused the video. You can write your response in your FRQ journal and on the Edpuzzle. Here, the question states, describe how one human activity other than those that result in anthropogenic climate change have resulted in a decrease in the amount of freshwater flowing into the Everglades ecosystem in Florida. Describe one way that restoring the Everglades would be expected to provide economic benefit to Florida. Okay, at this point we should have answered our FRQ. So, some accepted answers here for A. One human activity that's decreased the amount of fresh water in the Everglades, right, would be possible for diversion of water for maybe irrigation of crops. That's a human activity that's not necessarily tied to climate change. Maybe water is withdrawn for more domestic use, maybe watering lawns, washing cars. Maybe the wetland is filled in for growing crops or maybe building a housing development. All of these would be other human activities that don't coincide with climate change. Now, restoring the Everglades would result in maybe an increase of tourism, right? People wanting to go see the Everglades, which can bring much greater revenue for the state. Or maintaining clean water allows the state to spend maybe less money on having to treat their water, conserve their water. Restoration can also create more jobs, either in maybe tourism or the recreation industry. So remember, for B, your answer in some way, shape, or form had to be tied to money, right, since it asked for an economic benefit. All right, everyone, that's it on 8.4. If you have any questions, please leave it at the end of the video.